Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 53. So I want to start briefly by just saying thank you to everyone who attended live and or watched later my 1-year anniversary episode, which was last week, episode 52. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute because that's really what led me to this topic for this evening. So tonight we're going to talk about service, and I want to talk about how this topic came up because it started last week. And my experience of sharing that kirtan last week was very transcendent. And I had a few people make some comments to me about the difference in my voice. Somebody used the word angelic. What really happened, I could get into the nitty gritty and the dimensional frequency expansion and really get technical with it. But essentially what happened was I got out of the way and I let divine energy flow through me. And that is really the essence of service. That is how we serve. So it got me thinking a lot about service. And I've mentioned it a few times. I talk about it in my book. And if you haven't read my book, you can get it on my website. It's paulataylorenergy.com. So I talk about the idea of service in my book. And service is really the culmination of our spiritual path. And I'm going to get into a little bit about what I mean by that. But I want to kind of define service a little bit because I think that a lot of us have kind of a narrow view of service. I think if you had asked me several years ago about service, I would have said like, oh, that's helping others, or maybe volunteering. Service is donation, maybe donating your skills or your time or objects or money. And I think that's a traditional view that many of us have about service. And that is absolutely service, but that's not the only way to serve. So I want us to expand our view of service, and I want to talk a little bit about what my definition of service is and why it's so important. It's actually the end that comes up at the end of that spiritual integration book. And like I said, it's essentially the culmination of our spiritual path is to be in service. So before I get into that, I do want to say, when I use the word culmination, that makes it sound like the peak, the end. Our spiritual path never ends. And the excavation work that we do doesn't stop when we're in service. I think sometimes people think that you can't serve until you reach a certain point in your life. I talked several weeks ago about how somebody had said something to me about how can I call myself a healer if I couldn't heal my infertility. And I did a whole show where I talked about what I think healing really means. But I want to be clear that anyone can be of service. And in fact, sometimes when you're still dealing with a trauma response and you can hold space for someone else who's dealing with a similar trauma response, that's a deep form of service. So you don't have to be perfect, in quotes, to serve. You don't have to be a master of something to be in service. Service is really about being in divine flow. And I want to say a little bit more about that idea of excavation, because that's something that we continue to do while we're in service. And we can do that actually as a form of service. So if you think about this spiritual work that we do as an archaeological dig, there's layers. So when they first uncover something and they turn it into an archaeological dig, and they tape it off and they limit access to it, they continue to dig down and find more and more and more. So I think for a lot of us, the first layer of that in terms of this expansion, clarity, and harmony work, otherwise known as healing work, is the personal layer. We have to get through some personal stuff that we've been through in our own lives. But that stuff comes up at deeper levels as well. But underneath that, there's a lot of other layers. There's the generational layer that we need to bring some clarity, expansion, and harmony to. There's the ancestral layer. There's the cultural layer. And so that work of excavation never really ends because you might excavate something personally, and then that leads you into this ancestral work. And then something else personal comes up, and then that leads you into a cultural kind of revolution, which is what happened to me with the work that I've been doing with around worth and body image. So we continue to do that work, but we can do that work while we serve. And in fact, that work is a form of service, because when we work on ourselves, we work on everyone around us. That ripples out. And I say that very frequently on this show. So we don't stop excavating, but at a certain level, when we're ready for it, we can start to open to service. And there are infinite ways to serve your unique path of service. So even though you have unique talents and skills and passions, even within that, there are infinite ways that you can serve divine energy, that you can essentially make the world a better place. So the more we step into flow, the more we open to that idea of getting out of the way, like I just mentioned about what happened to me last week, the more we can start to really make everything we do be about service. And the idea that came to my mind when I was thinking about this was the Buddhist idea of making everything you do a meditation. So you might start by sitting in meditation. We do that on a weekly basis here. And then you might start by doing a simple task in your life in a meditative way, like washing the dishes is a good example, or walking. But eventually the goal is to be in meditation in all moments, to be fully present in each moment of your life, to be fully in flow in every single moment. And do we get there? Occasionally, maybe. Most of us not so much. But that's the goal. That's what we're kind of working toward. And you will find that the more you do this work, the easier it gets. And the more you start to get into that flow, the more present you are in all aspects of your life. And then that presence opens us to service. So service requires presence. And it also requires stepping outside of the ego mind. And that's kind of what I meant when I said getting out of my own way. So I grew up as a performer. I've mentioned this multiple times, a musical performer. I have a degree in classical music. And part of the reason I left was the pressure. There was so much pressure to be perfect in this performance. And I actually stepped away from music for like 20 years because I didn't get any joy out of it anymore, even though it had been a passion that I had been kind of born with. And so I stepped away from it for a while. But all of that was really about the ego. And when I got back into music, I was sort of dragged back into music by my husband. At first, I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of excavation to do. Personal excavation to do with performing. What if this note is wrong? What if I'm out of tune? What if my voice breaks? All of these thoughts. What if people don't like the way I look while I'm performing? I actually have had people say that I look like I'm angry when I'm singing because I'm concentrating. And I would call that a form of sexism. That's a little bit a form of the, oh, you should smile more kind of thing. Because no one ever tells my husband. They do tell him he needs to look up because he tends to not look up from his music. But no one ever tells him he looks angry. Anyway, I digress. So I couldn't really be in service as a musician, as a performer, until I let go of some of those ego things, that fear that came up from the ego. And actually, I remember kind of the moment it happened. I was playing at a retirement home, and it was our first time playing there. I was really nervous. We were setting up, and we were getting a lot of comments. That's too loud. That's not loud enough. And I just thought, there's just like no way we're going to please these people. Like, it's not happening. And I completely let go of that ego drive to be perfect, to please everyone, to perform, to be liked, all of that stuff. I was just like, well, I'm just going to do my thing. And if they don't like it, what can I say? And an amazing thing happened because I got out of the way. I stepped out of my ego mind for that performance. And I started to feel energetically a shift in the room. We came into this room that was full of, a diverse group of people that were all unhappy, it seemed, about different things. And I could feel the energy start to shift. And as I channeled music, as I got out of the way and just let the music flow through me from this divine source, the energy in the room started to shift. And I could feel the engagement. And I could feel the expansion that happened in these people that had come in kind of a contracted state, a lot of them. And by the end, they were just so happy. They were so excited. They talked to us for such a long time after we played about how wonderful it was and how much they enjoyed it. And that had nothing to do with me, with the little me, with that little me ego. That had to do with me stepping out of the way and allowing service to flow through me, allowing divine energy to flow through me. That is what service is. But again, we have to get out of that kind of ego state to be in service. And that can be really scary. That can be really hard. When we started last week, we had been doing a bunch of sound checks, and my voice, I said to my husband, I don't know how well this is going to go. I don't think I could do a kirtan for 12 minutes. Like, I'll be lucky if I last 5. And what happened, and I can hear it in the recording if I go back and listen, at a certain point, I let go of all of that, and my throat opened up in a way that I don't know that it's ever opened before. And all of these beautiful frequencies, all of these dimensional frequencies came in and boosted the frequency that came through my body. And there was an experience beyond the ego. There was that transcendent experience, and that is service. So we can't destroy the ego, and the more we fight it, the more it resists. And I realized earlier today, I was kind of feeling like I was in a funk, and I thought, well, I don't understand why. Like, things have been going well. What's going on with me? And I came back to this subject of the ego because I've been doing this dimensional frequency expansion process, and there's a little bit of what sometimes they call an ego death. I don't know that I would use that word because the ego doesn't die. We can't get rid of it. But sometimes we can step really far outside of it, and it does not like that. It gets very scared, and it will start sending us emotions to get us distracted. It will start sending fear and shame and guilt and depression and all the things that make us think, oh, I'm not on the right track. I better not do that. Because that's what the ego wants. It wants us to back away from this expansion that we're heading into. It doesn't want us to get clear and expanded and in harmony because it finds that to be threatening. So the ego distracts us from our service. It pulls us out of the moment. But we can choose to keep stepping back into love and out of fear over and over again. And that's part of that process. That's part of the excavation process. That's part of the process of opening to service, is recognizing, as I did earlier today, oh, I've been triggered about this. I'm in fear. Something's bringing up something's excavating some stuff from my energetic field, and I could just choose to run away from that, which is what the ego wants, or I can recognize it for what it is. I can bring some clarity and awareness to it, and then I can figure out how to process it, and then I can soothe myself, and I can step back into love and say, I'm going to do this anyway. It scares me, the little me, but the big me, the expanded me, knows that this is part of my service, and I have agreed to open to service. That's really what a spiritual path is an agreement to open to service. And just like everything else we do, you don't have to just open the floodgates and say, use me, I am yours. Some people do that, and that's fantastic if that's where you're at. But you can open to service a little bit at a time. And that's what we're going to work on in our meditation tonight. So I aim to be in service in everything that I do, in every way that I am. And I'm definitely not always successful. And no one is. I mean, that's just not how we work as humans. You know, we're perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect, whatever way you like to say that. But that phrase that we talked about at the very beginning of this year that I say so often of the highest good, that is a phrase that will bring you into service. That is a phrase that will bring you out of that fear and into love. So if I'm thinking about a situation and I'm like, oh, like, am I, what am I, how do I respond to this? Like, I'm not sure how this is going and I want to be in service. So I ask myself, what is for the highest good? And sometimes I have to do a little bit of excavation first. Like, I might get angry about a situation. And whereas in the past I'd say, oh, I'm not angry, I'm spiritual. Now I say, like, oh, yeah, I'm angry. I'm going to process that anger. I'm going to feel that anger. I'm going to physically do something to process that emotional energy out of my physical body, like we talked about a few weeks ago. But once I'm through that, then I'm going to ask myself, what is for the highest good here? How can I serve the highest good? And when you bring that highest good phrase in, that bypasses the ego. It steps out of the ego and opens that divine service sort of tunnel, that cord. It activates that service cord that we have that I talk about in my book, just using that phrase with intention for the highest good. And I have one more example. I'm not even sure I need to go into this, but it's on my page, so I'm going to. So in my quote unquote day job right now, I am a patient navigator for breast imaging. And there's a lot that goes into that, but essentially I give breast biopsy results to patients. And so that means that sometimes I have to tell patients that they have breast cancer. And I absolutely look at this as a form of service. And this brings up another point. I get paid to do this job, but it is still service. So sometimes we think that service is only volunteering. Or I had a really great discussion with a friend I haven't talked to in like 20 years the other day. And we were talking about service, and she was talking about how essentially we can't take the ego out of ourselves, that there are no acts that are truly selfless. And I would agree with that, because service gives us a reward, even if, we might not be paid monetarily for it. But like last week, after I shared that kirtan, I was like walking on air for days afterwards. It left me in such an expanded state because I fully opened up and got out of the way. And then I shared that, and that was the service. But again, there's that old saying, what you give comes back to you. Or sometimes they say what you give comes back to you threefold. So yes, service is kind of selfish if you look at it in that way, because it is so rewarding. But if you think about it in terms of, and again, we could get really into the weeds here spiritually, but if everyone else is a reflection of me and there is no separation, we are all one on a spiritual level, on a quantum level, then serving someone else really does serve me. And serving myself really does serve someone else. So that idea of service, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it's more about what you're being. So in my job, when I have to give someone this very difficult news that is going to change their life, I try to be very present with them. I try to hold space for them so that they feel safe, so that they feel like someone cares about them. And that is absolutely service. So service can come in so many different forms. And that's why I said it's not about what you do, it's about how you're being. I feel like everyone has had a situation where you've encountered someone in a fairly trivial moment. I'm using my air quotes again. Like you went to a restaurant and you had a server, or you went to a store and someone waited on you. It was not something like what I'm talking about, where someone's giving you this kind of life-changing news. But I feel like all of us have had that experience of having an encounter with someone that is just oozing love. And it can completely transform your entire day. When I was doing ultrasound, I tried to be that person. Sometimes the job I was doing, the actual ultrasound, seemed to be completely irrelevant from the reason that I was meeting the person. And that was just to give them a safe space, to show them what it looks like to be in love, to step out of fear and to be in love. And that is service. So showing people how to be is a form of service. Showing people that we can be in love even in a difficult situation, like when I'm giving women this news. Just like so many other things that we talk about, service is about intention. And intention, in a lot of ways, is kind of the same thing as clarity. So if we intend to be in service, then we open ourselves up to getting out of the way and letting that divine energy flow through us, because that divine energy knows more than we'll ever know. I've talked about that a lot. And we try to control it. I try to control it. I'm a controlling person. I want to control everything. So it's hard to get out of the way. But we can practice this. We can practice this in small moments. And then eventually, even the smallest moment of service ripples out. And then we expand and we get a little confidence in our service. And we recognize that it feels good. And we recognize that it helps the other being that we're serving. And then we expand a little more. And then that brings harmony into our body, into our energetic field, and perhaps actually shifts some of those frequencies of disharmony that we've been carrying around. So being in service is actually healing. It's healing to us. It's healing to those we encounter. And again, it's really the culmination of the spiritual path in my mind. So for our meditation tonight, we're going to spend a little time getting really present. And we do that every week. That's one of the reasons that we meditate, is to practice that presence. Because it can be hard to get present in the midst of daily distraction. There's a lot of things going on. And again, practice makes progress. So as we practice getting present in this nice, safe, kind of quiet environment, then when we step into, say, Costco, where I went earlier today, I used to be almost unable to go into Costco. It was too overwhelming. And it was a lot less busy, I will say, than it sometimes is. But it doesn't affect me in the same way that it did even 2 years ago, because I am much more present and I am much more expanded. And so the energies that I encounter that might be in disharmony with my energies don't really affect me as much anymore, because I have confidence in my expansion. I have confidence in my harmony, and that ripples out. And it sort of forms a little protective bubble around me in some ways. All right, so for our meditation tonight, we're going to get really present. And then we're going to do some opening to service in that safe meditative space. We're going to maybe think a little bit about some service that we've done in the past and recognize, because sometimes service is a little bit sneaky. Sometimes we don't realize that we have the opportunity to be in service. When I was doing ultrasound, I would fairly frequently get people who came in and they were very upset for various reasons. They didn't feel good. They were upset about what their copayment was. They were upset with their doctor because they felt like their doctor didn't order the right test. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I tried to be of service in those moments, again, by just holding the space of love and not letting myself get pulled into the fear, and not slamming them either, because you can be smug about being in love when someone's in fear, and that's not really being in love. That's being kind of smug. I don't know what the word is for that. It's not truly being in love. It's not being in service, for sure. So I would try to just hold space and provide some expansion physically in my energetic space, in my room, And a lot of times people would come in and then they would say, wow, I feel so good in here, or I feel so much better. And it had nothing to do with the ultrasound. I mean, the ultrasound was a diagnostic tool. It's not a therapeutic tool. It was just being in that opening for service. And if I'm open to service, then that person might see that reflected and open themselves to service. So that's another amazing thing about service. It's kind of contagious, and that's amazing. We need more of that. So we're going to work on opening to service in the meditation. I don't think I need to go into any more detail. So let's meditate together. So close your eyes. For tonight's meditation, it's best if you can sit up, but if you'd like to lie down or be in any other position, feel free to do that if it's calling to you. Take 3 really nice deep oxytocin breaths, breathing in to the belly and then sighing it out, that audible ha sound. And once more. Maybe let yourself smile a little bit, coming fully present into the space that you're in right now, letting go of any thoughts of what comes after this or what came before. Really let yourself come into this space. Take a few more deep breaths. Breathe into any areas of tension that remain in your body. Make any movements that your body is calling for before you become still. You can shake yourself around a little bit. Discharge a little bit of excess energy, a little bit of disharmony you might have picked up during the day. And then allow that crown chakra, the top of the head, to gently open. Invite that energy of the highest good to flow in through the top of your head. Let it fill your brain and your mind space. Let it fill your face and your jaw and your throat. Invite this energy of the highest good into your neck and your shoulders. Let it flow down each arm and into your wrists and hands. Allow this highest energy, this unconditional love for the highest good, to flow into your chest and your heart space. Let it come into your back and your abdomen, into that solar plexus area, that third chakra. Allow this energy for the highest good to flow into your low belly and your low back, that sacral chakra. Allow it to come into the hips and the pelvis, the base of your spine, that root chakra. And hold the intention here again that this energy is for the highest good. And let yourself get out of the way of this energy as it flows into your thighs. Effortlessly allow this to flow into your legs, into your thighs and your knees. Allow it to flow down your lower legs and into your ankles and feet. Let this energy flow down from the bottoms of your feet, from that base of the spine into the earth below you. Feel that warm, radiant, fertile, rich energy of the earth supporting you. Let it come up into your feet and into that root chakra. Allow it to mingle with that golden light, that energy for the highest good. And again, check in with your body. Notice if there's any areas of tension. You can move those areas a little bit if you'd like, or just breathe into them. Allow that energy that is for the highest good to come into the areas of resistance in your body, those areas of tension or discomfort, of disharmony. Recognizing that those are ego resistance, all of those little areas. And just for the next 20 minutes or so, allow that energy that is for the highest good to flow into all of the areas of your body, of your energetic field. Let go of that resistance as much as you can. And bringing your awareness to that crown chakra just above the head, at the top of the head there. Allow that to open even further. You can imagine a tube or a cord. This is your God cord, your service cord. This is here specifically to help you open to service. So allow this to open as much as you'd like. For the meditation, you can allow it to open completely. And I will give you the opportunity to close it at the end of the meditation if you want. But just for this meditation, really open that flow of service into your body, into your mind and your emotional field, into your energetic fields. And as you're ready, let your mind, let your intuition call you to a time in your past where you felt like you were in service. You felt like you were serving your purpose. You felt like you were in flow. You felt like you were helping someone else or yourself. And allow yourself emotionally to remember what that felt like. Don't spend too much time going back into that moment. Just allow the emotion of it to flow into your body and notice how good it feels. Notice how rewarding it feels. Notice that you were able to step out of the way. You were able to step out of the ego to be in flow in that moment. And perhaps your experience of time even changed. Perhaps time slowed down or sped up. This is a frequent sign that we are truly in flow. That time feels like it's changed. Our perception of time changes when we're truly in the present, when we're truly in flow, when we're open to service. So let that energy that you generated at this time of service, let it come into your body today. Let it come into your emotional field, into your mental field. And once more, bring your awareness to the top of the head, to that God cord, to that service tube, whatever way you'd like to visualize this. You can visualize it as a faucet that's fully flowing this energy of service down into your body. Turn the faucet on even further. Again, just for this meditation. If you have some fear coming up, if you have some other emotions coming up, take deep breaths and just very slowly open that faucet. If all you can achieve today is a little trickle, That's completely fine. Don't judge yourself about this. But if you can, if you feel like you're able to, open it all the way. Like a fire hydrant, this energy of service is flowing into your body, is flowing into your mental and emotional energetic fields, into your physical energetic field. And notice how expanding this feels. Notice perhaps that your heart feels like it's opening. Notice perhaps that your body feels expansive, that the area around your body feels like it's expanding. Invite any expansion that comes with this process to unfold as it is ready. You can go back to that faucet and open it more as you're ready, just really letting this energy of service flow through your body. If it helps you to keep that memory in mind, you can do that. If you've been called to another memory, you can use that mental energy to continue to open to this energy of service, to this flow that is for the highest good of all. And as you're ready, if you'd like, you can invite your highest self to join you. Perhaps you're already feeling like you're one with your highest self in this state. You can invite any other guides to come into this space. And as you're ready, ask the question, how can I be of service moving forward? How can I serve the highest good moving forward? And then just sit quietly and wait for your answer. It may not come in words, it may come in pictures or emotions or thoughts. It may, again, pull you to a memory when you felt like you were in service. Just stay expanded and see what comes up here. You may get just a general answer, general idea. You may get something very specific. Whatever comes to you in this moment is for the highest good. Give yourself a few more moments here. Ask the question again if you'd like. How can I be in service to the highest good moving forward in my life? And once more, open that faucet of service. Let it flow into your body. Let it flow into the energetic space around your body. Let it flow into the room you're occupying right now. Let it flow into your entire home or wherever you're staying. Let this energy of service flow into your entire life, into your being. Let it flow into the people around you. Let it flow into the inanimate objects around you. Let your space be completely occupied by this flow of service to the highest good. Let it come into your heart space. You might bring your hand to your heart. Let it come into your belly. You might bring a hand to your belly. Call this energy of service into your being and know that it is for the highest good, for your highest good, for the highest good of those around you. Take a nice deep breath, sigh it out. Allow this expansion to stay in your space. But if you'd like, you can adjust that faucet, that flow of service. You can leave it completely open. You can close it slightly. You can close it all the way or leave a little trickle. I encourage you to leave at least a little trickle, even if it feels scary. Allow this energy of service to expand you for the highest good, not just your highest good, the highest good of all. Opening to your service serves the highest good of everyone around you. And it serves your journey of excavation, of stepping into clarity and expansion and harmony. As you're ready, if you'd like, you can allow that crown chakra to gently close or leave it open for the highest good. And once more, invite that energy of the highest good, that unconditional love and light and joy and bliss. Invite it to flow through your head, through your throat and your chest, your heart space. Let it come into your belly, that upper belly and lower belly, into the base of your spine, that root, down into each leg, to the ankles and feet. Really let that energy flow through your body and stay fully present for just the last few moments here. Don't let your mind start to wander and start to think about how your belly's been making noises through the whole meditation because you're hungry. Just let yourself be fully present in this moment. Enjoy that expansion and recognize that you are a divine being and you are here for service in whatever way that shows up. As you open to the highest good, it will show up more and more often in more diverse ways. And allow yourself to have the courage to say yes. Say yes to service. Say yes to expansion and to clarity and to harmony. As you're ready, affirm with me out loud. I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body and I am open to service. I am fully present in my body and I serve the highest good in each moment of my life. As you're ready, you can take another deep breath or two, wiggle your fingers and toes around. Maybe move your head and neck a little bit. Just let yourself gently come back, bringing that expansion with you, bringing that energy of service with you. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me for this 1 year plus 1 week of Wind Down Wednesday. Let this expansion come with you into the next few days and notice how things shift. Notice how your encounters with people maybe shift. Notice how your feelings shift when you get out of the way of your divine birthright of this flow of service, and recognizing that service serves yourself, it serves other people, it serves the highest good when you allow yourself to open to it fully, or even just a little if that's what you're ready for. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Have a divinely serviced rest of your week, and I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.